over some of the protocols for the meeting, please. Only speak when invited to chair. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand and direct all communication via the chair. Will everyone please ensure that their mics are muted when they are not speaking, apart from the chair. If you're having any technical difficulties, please use the chat function in Google Meet only to alert the meeting, or you can dial in with the phone number that I've provided. Please do not use the chat function for putting formal questions to the subcommittee or to make comments. Any persistent disruptive behaviour will result in removal from the meeting. Applicants and all other parties will be asked to leave the proceedings after their item is concluded. Once all applications have been considered, any remaining parties will be asked to log out of the hearing. Please do so promptly. Each party will be notified of the decision within 5 working days. Can I start off with the first item on the agenda? Can we elect a chair, please?
Yeah. Please, could I elect Councillor Gilbert-Smith as chair? Thank you.
Seconded.
Great. Thank you very much, everyone, and welcome to today's Licensing Subcommittee Meeting D, Thursday, the 24th of November at 2 p.m. Just before we start, I'd just like to go around the virtual room to introduce ourselves. I'm Councillor Smith. I'm Chair of Licensing and also a Councillor in Stoke Newington. And Councillor Susa Runga.
I'm Councillor Sheila Susa Runga and I'm Hackney Central Ward Councillor.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Ozen.
Yeah, I'm Councillor for London Appeals.
Fantastic. And Suba?
I'm Suba Shree. I'm a Principal Licensing Officer who will be presenting the report.
Thank you very much. Amanda?
Good afternoon. I'm Amanda North, the Solicitor, supporting members this afternoon. Thank you.
Fantastic. And Rabia? You're on mute.
I'm Rabia Hatton. I'm the Governance Officer.
Thank you very much. And David? David Tuitt?
I'm David Tuitt. I'm Team Leader Licensing and Technical Support.
Thank you very much. And we have Mario, our IT assistant. Thank you, Mario, for everything you do. And Councillor Rathbone, you're on the call.
Hi.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Councillor Rathbone, Councillor for Leabridge Ward.
Thank you very much. And now I have Gareth Hughes.
Good afternoon, Chair. Thank you. Gareth Hughes, barrister, representing the first applicant on your agenda, which is the Beechwood premises, Principal Worship Street.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. That's great. Then I have Stephen on the screen.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm present with James McCracken. I'm the Operations Director for Maven Leisure, so that's application number 1 on the agenda.
Thank you very much. And Clinton?
My name's Clinton Fox. I'm a local resident.
Thank you. Would you prefer to be referred to as C3 or your name? I know we mentioned your name already, but I didn't realise that.
C3's fine. C3's fine.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. And then I have
the Chairman, Chair Fox, Mr. Fox is a resident on the second matter.
Yep. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
I'm just looking through these names. I can see Verity. Do you just want to introduce yourself very briefly? You're on mute.
Is a resident on the second matter.
Yep. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
I'm just looking through these names. I can see Verity.
Hi.
You just want to introduce yourself very briefly.
Yes, sorry.
I'm getting some weird recording thing coming back to me. Mario. It seems to have stopped now. Yeah, you got it, yeah?
Sorry, I was accidentally on the YouTube one and I've just jumped into the Google Meet. Sorry about that. I've heard everything in the background.
Great, thank you. Do you want to just introduce yourself very briefly?
Yes, I'm Verity Cox. I'm the licensee of Blondies 205A and I'm here for the second meeting for the variation of licensing hours.
Thank you very much. And I think it's C56. I don't want to mention the name, but it's the person with the E on the screen. I believe that is the person I'd like to. Do you want to introduce yourself? C56. Yeah, that one there. Yeah. Do you want to just? Hi there. Do you?
I'm Emily. I'm local resident as well, and I'm here supporting the second matter.
Okay. Would you like to be referred to as C56 or your name?
My name's fine.
Okay. Thank you, Emily. And then I have just looking down the list here. I'm trying not to say the name just for privacy reasons. Yeah, I've got C12, beginning with C.
Is that me you're referring to?
Yeah, that's you. Yeah.
My name's Chris McCarthy. I'm a local resident, and I'm here to support the application of Blondies.
Thank you. And are you happy to be referred to?
Chris is fine.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And please just help me, everyone, because at the moment I've got 12. About 15 pictures on my screen. Is there anyone else on there that I can't see, possibly? Have I got everyone? Yeah, Verity, I can't hear you.
Sorry, I was on mute again. There are a few names on here that are supporters of the Blondies application. I could introduce them by name, or I'm not sure if you need to know everyone. I know everyone's not going to be speaking today, so.
Yeah. Okay, so I've got 15 screens on my one screen. So if there are any more out there, apologies. Please help me if there's anyone else there that I cannot see. Okay, let's move on then. So you've got your agenda in your pack. We've gone through agenda item 1, which is the election of chair. Agenda item 2 is apologies for absence. So are there any apologies for absence? I don't believe so. Fantastic. And then agenda item 3, declarations of interest from members, please.
No.
Yep. Councillor Susan Runga, I can't hear you. You're on mute. Yep. You're on mute, Councillor Susan Runga.
Sorry, no declaration of interest. Apologies, Chair.
Fantastic. And item agenda 4 is minutes of previous meeting, and there are no minutes included in the pack for consideration today. That's good. And then agenda item 5, I'll just run through the hearing procedure. So there's various steps to this. Step 1 is the appointment of chair and introduction, which we've done. Step 2, the licensing officer will outline the report. Step 3, the applicant will present their case in support of their application. Step 4 is normally responsible authorities, and today we have licensing. Step 5 is other persons. These are 5 minutes each, by the way. Other persons come in, so these are the people that may support or not, or otherwise. Step 6, discussion over 15 minutes. Step 7, closing remarks. Step 8, final clarifications. And then step 9, all the relevant parties will leave, and we will deliberate what we've heard. Judgments will be passed. You can get them by phone tomorrow or within 5 working days written. So let's move on then to the first item on the agenda, which is the Beechwood Principal Place, 115 Worship Street, EC 2A, 2BA. So I would like to invite the licensing officer, please, to outline the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So the first item we are going to consider this afternoon is for an application for variation under Section 34 of the Licensing Act 2003 for the Beechwood Principal Place, 115 Worship Street, to include late night refreshment from 2300 to 1:30 a.m. on Sunday, and to extend the supply of alcohol till 1 a.m. on Sunday for the months from September to March. Representation remains from licensing, and I have nothing else to add. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. So let's just move on now to the applicant. So I think that'll be Mr. Hughes. If you would like to present your case in support of the application. Thank you. You've got 5 minutes.
Well, thank you, Chair. I may just take longer than 5 minutes, but I hope I can indulge you just a bit. I intended at the end to call Mr. Kirby, who can give you a bit more detail on procedures.
Yeah, that's fine.
But it's an application, as your clerk has just said rightly, for variation to the premises license, which already exists at the building in Worship Street. It is, as she said, it's a limited application, if you like, only set to apply on Sunday evening into Monday mornings, and only to cover the months through from September to the end of February. And it's primarily to cover as you might imagine, as we're at the sports restaurant bar, National Football League competitions in the United States. So obviously they're 5, 6, 7 hours behind our timings here. So when a game is kicking off there, it's usually middle evening here. And if they're on the West Coast, then it's a bit later. So instead of applying for temporary event notices, and I suppose running out of those pretty quickly as the year goes on, we've decided to put in this limited time limit, if you like, application. There are no objections you've seen from your papers, Chair and colleagues, from environmental health on the noise grounds. There are no representations from the police on the crime and disorder ground. And also, given because we're conscious we're in the special policy area, there are no objections from any residents in this area. So the only representation is from my friend Mr. Hewitt, who, as the licensing officer, of course, needs to put in a rep when it's a policy case, and that's very understandable. So perhaps I could just deal, if I may, Chair, with a few of your policy headings from the policy. LP2 is the crucial one, which invites us to address the licensing objectives. And in terms of crime and disorder, we've proposed in your papers 4 more conditions to be added to the license, if you're minded to grant it, for this period. And then they'd fall away at the end of February and come to life again next September. So no representations, again, as I say, from the police on this one. They're happy with the proposal from the antisocial behaviour, crime disorder point of view. I'll come to the conditions in a minute, if I may. Public safety, again, no representations made on this ground. My client, ETM and Maven, represent various premises in central London, all of which are roughly run along the same lines, but there are other restaurants too, some of them sports bars, and they're primarily located in City Westminster, Victoria Street. There's one in Southwark, there's one across the border from you in the City of London, all of whom have the same conditions as these conditions we're seeking to attach today. So in terms of public safety, there are no representations there, and premises are run to the highest standard. So far as children are concerned, again, given this is a late night application, we're not anticipating there'll be any children in the premises during these hours. But even if there were, there are very well laid down policies in ETM Group for addressing the issues that the presence of children raises, but we won't have any children at this time of the night. In terms of public nuisance, again, we proposed 4 steps. And if I may come to those now, Chair, at paragraph 8.1 of your report, I think it is, we set out there briefly what they are. And these are that the sale of alcohol shall be ancillary to the screening of a television broadcast of a live sporting event post 2300. So in other words, people can't just go in there for a drink. It will be primarily subject to them watching the sports broadcast, usually from the United States.
Mr. Hughes, can I just stop you there just for 1 second?
Sorry.
I just want to check with Suba. Have we had sight of these suggested conditions, Suba? Are they in the pack somewhere?
They're in your report, sir, at paragraph 8.1, I think.
What page is that?
Paragraph 8.1 of your report, sir.
Yeah, what page number?
I haven't got page numbers on my agenda, Chair, but it's paragraph 8.1 of your report.
Yeah.
It's
I'm
under
just
the
trying to
officer
find them.
observations.
Just bear with me. What's that?
Under officer observations, paragraph 8.
Chair, I think
Okay,
it's,
yeah, I've got
page
it. Got it. I've
15.
got it. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Your
Okay, carry
colleagues-
on, Mr. Hughes.
Have your colleagues got them? I just want to make sure all members have got them.
Yeah,
That's
page
right.
50, it's page 15 of the pack, everyone.
Thank you, Chairman. So the first point, as I was making, was the sale of alcohol to be ancillary only to the screening of television broadcasts of a live sporting event post 2300 hours. The second one is that there will be no entry to the premises post 2300 hours. So it's not anticipated we're going to have any people coming in there after that hour. So no latecomers coming in, suddenly trying to get in. And as my client will say in a minute, that in terms of advertising on the site, there will be time limits set down on that site. So people know that the latest hour will be 2300 and they needn't bother turning up after that point. And Mr. Kirby will give evidence of that. No more than 5 people outside smoking. It's inevitable we're going to have to allow for smokers, but we've decided to build in a condition there that limits those numbers quite severely. And what's more important, they won't be able to take their drinks outside. So just smoking outside. So that will keep them outside for a very short period of time. And given that we're only looking at the winter months here, through October, November, December, January, February, I can't see that in the cold nights there'll be many people wanting to stay out for very long in any event, and they want to get back inside for the game. And the 4th condition, which we suggested, is that there be 2 SIA door staff on duty with the events risk assessed for these games as they run throughout the year. And that combined with all the existing conditions on the licence, Chair, and that's also within your pack, plus no objections from the Environmental Health Officer, we hope commends itself to you. In terms of, I won't take much longer, so I can see you looking at your watch. A couple of minutes more, if I may.
You've had 6.5 so far.
Literally a couple of minutes more, Chair. In terms of planning, of course, there are no planning objections here. We're all within planning, so that's not an issue. And again, in terms of the policy area, we've set down the 4 conditions which we think would enhance the conditions that are already on the licence during these later hours. And as I say, it's only every Sunday in these months that we're proposing. So perhaps in the remaining time we've got, I just wanted to call Mr. Kirby just to give evidence to you briefly about the manner and style of the operation. And you may have questions about this, I know, and how we run them at the other premises where we have identical conditions on our license. So perhaps briefly I could call Mr. Kirby just to give an upsum of how these events are organised and pre-booking arrangements and so on. Thank you, Chair.
I think that's something we can maybe do in the discussion, Mr. Hughes, if that's okay. I mean, Stephen, you will have ample opportunity to talk about this and be questioned about it, so don't fret. But I think I'd like to move on to licensing now, if that's okay, Mr. Hughes.
Thank you, Chair.
No problem at all. Thank you.
Great. Okay, David Chewett, if you'd like to come in, please, with your points.
Thank you, Chair. I'll keep my submission very brief. So the representation is at Appendix B in today's agenda. So within that, I refer to the premises being located within a Shoreditch Special Policy Area, which, as you'll be aware, has been identified as suffering from negative cumulative impacts as a result of large numbers of licensed premises in that location, in that area. Concern is that the proposed activity could exacerbate the negative impacts which are being experienced there, and therefore undermining the licence and objectives. So LP10 within the Council's policy sets out that the applicant should demonstrate that the proposed activity and the operation of the premises will not add to that cumulative impact already being experienced. As you've heard from Mr. Hughes, and as you would have seen in the papers, the application is very limited in scope. So it's just seeking those additional hours on Sundays and the seasonal variations during the month of September to March inclusive. So it is very limited in scope. But as you've heard, it is an application which is within the special policy area, so it does require that additional level of scrutiny just to ensure that there's no undermining of the licensing objectives and that the proposal doesn't add to the cumulative impact. I'll leave it there for now, Chair. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Mr. Chewett, for that. So I think we can move straight to the discussion phase because there are no other persons in support or objecting to this. So I just want to invite the other members on the call to ask some questions to start with, if you've got any. Thank you very much.
Yes, Chair, may I ask a question?
Of course.
Thank you so much for the information and the helpful section in respect of the cumulative impact. Could you tell me a little bit more about what your capacity is, and also a little bit more about how you've consulted with the local residents? Thank you.
You're on mute, Mr. Hughes.
I'm sorry, Madam. In terms of the local residents, we haven't consulted in an informal manner. I suppose you'd say we've consulted via the notice procedure, notices on the building and notices in the local newspapers. But we haven't had an informal discussion with local residents yet. Perhaps Mr. Kirby could answer your question, Councillor, on capacities.
Yeah, with regard to the expected capacity for these events for the NFL, what we've seen in other venues, it would be somewhere in the region of 30 to 50 patrons. So not a particularly large number of individuals. That's about 50% of our seated capacity. And if you'll allow, for those who perhaps aren't particularly familiar with National Football League, the American football format, they are it's not dissimilar to cricket in the regard that it's a long 4-quartered sporting event that can say, although each quarter is only sort of 20 minutes, can take anywhere from 2 to sort of 3 hours to conclude. So for these events, it's not like a soccer event, for example, where it's sort of very high paced and very energetic. It's much more, the environment is much more, it's seated, relaxed, lots of dining. We see around about 50 to 60% of our revenue coming through food at these events, more so than on the alcohol side. So it really is, it's a much more relaxed sporting experience than perhaps people would expect.
Well, thank you. I wanted to ask you all about the televised sports, but you explained it all. But can I only just confirm, it will only be NFL that you're showing? There won't be any other particular sporting activities being shown, only the NFL. Is that correct?
That is correct, yeah. So this is an application to be able to show National Football League. The reason we've worded it specifically as live sporting events is that could also cover American college football games at that time of the evening. It won't be it won't be soccer. There's no circumstance where it would be football or boxing or anything else along those lines. The only sport you're ever likely to find at that time on a Sunday evening is the American football, which is what this application is for.
Thank you.
And Councillor Ozen, do you have any questions?
Already been asked about capacity, so I haven't got any questions actually. Thank you.
Okay. So Stephen, just Mr. Hughes was talking about describing the kind of manner of the operation, the area, how it kind of works. I mean, just to get a feel, because obviously I've looked on this, I've looked at the area on Google Maps, and it is that kind of high-rise city kind of feel. I presume there are buildings there with flats and stuff in. If you could just give us a little feel for the area from a kind of residential point of view. And just,
absolutely.
The manner of your operation, so, far away.
Of course. So specifically for these NFL events, we find that all of the bookings come through our reservation platform. So we know the anticipated numbers and as such can risk assess appropriately. To be honest, for 30 to 50 guests, under normal circumstances, we would often not operate with an SIA licensed door staff unless it was stipulated. However, for the benefit of these applications along these lines, and because of the understanding that we need to ensure minimal impact to the local area, we do stipulate that we will always run with 2 SIA door staff during these events to ensure it's primarily to ensure that the area around the venues is well managed, particularly when people are popping out for cigarettes, to ensure that nobody enters the premises after the agreed hour of 11 p.m. And then also just to ensure that our guests, as the match is finished, and I guess another thing that's worth mentioning with NFL is it often doesn't, it's not exciting all the way to the very end. Often these games are really wrapping up in terms of interest halfway through the last quarter. So we get quite a refreshing, elongated period of egress where the guests are leaving the premises. It's not, you won't often find everyone trying to leave at the same time. You find people leaving in dribs and drabs, as it were, which is fantastic for us to be able to manage them out into the local environment. Obviously, all our staff, managers and door staff are well briefed on where the local public transport opportunities are. In this particular area, we're well serviced with Shoreditch High Street, not too far away. We've got Liverpool Street, obviously about a 5-minute walk down the road, and there are numerous bus stops around the vicinity. If this license is granted, I would expect to see similar trends to our other venues, where the vast majority of the clientele is actually local residents. So it's people from within the local environment who come and join us, and often just walk home. So from that respect, I think we're well provisioned to ensure that the impact to the environment will be minimal. There will be no takeaway service. There would be no waste taken out of the premises either. So obviously no impact from that perspective. To paint the picture of where we are, we sit directly underneath Amazon. So there's a 4,000 person office block above us, which is obviously empty on a Sunday. So in terms of any direct impact to them, it will be minimal. Our exit door actually discharges our guests directly into the City of London, more so than back towards Shoreditch. It actually sends them towards Liverpool Street. There are several high-rise apartment buildings nearby. To my knowledge, none of them has any residential on the ground floor, and none of our guests would be expected to be exiting in a direction that would take them past any of the residential buildings. So to get to the major, to any of the major sort of public transport near us, or to jump in an Uber or a black cab, you're not passing any residential at all as you leave the premises. Again, we are expecting around about 30 to 50 patrons each evening. So with the management we have in place, I wouldn't expect there to be any impact on our local residents at all.
Okay, great, thank you. Just going to page 38 in the physical pack, condition 27. It says, before 1100 hours, alcohol shall only be supplied as an ancillary to a substantial table meal. I mean, you mentioned that people tend to eat kind of during the games as well. That would be after 11 in this case on a Sunday. I mean, would you expect that to happen, where people are still eating?
Yeah, I would expect people to still be grazing at that time of night, for sure.
Yeah.
I would expect them to still be ordering wings, nachos, burgers, all for them to be guests who have already eaten as part of their experience.
Yeah, and would they be
our kitchen?
seated?
Sorry, I think this might give some clarity. The kitchen operates to the terminal hour on that day, so the kitchen is a full service kitchen serving substantial meals, burgers, pizzas, and other sort of American style dining, and that will operate all the way through until the time that the venue is closed.
I mean, on that condition, and Amanda, just keep me right on this one. I'm just going to read it out again, because obviously it's not applicable to Sunday night, really. Before 1100 hours.
Chairman, could I ask which condition, which number condition?
27.
Thank you.
On page 38.
Got it.
Before 1100 hours, alcohol shall only be supplied as an ancillary to a substantial table meal. So therefore, after that, what happens? Do you see what I'm getting at here? What I'm suggesting is we may have to extend this particular condition on a Sunday to the hours that you've requested. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. Yeah.
And would you be happy with that idea?
Yeah, I would accept that proposal. Yeah.
Okay, great. So, Amanda, would you like to note that? Have you got any comments to make about that particular proposal, Amanda?
I think David Tuitt has raised his hand.
Yeah, David.
Just to clarify by that, that's alcohol before 11 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, it's not 11 p.m.
I think that condition carried over from the previous.
Oh, I'm
operator.
getting confused. I'm thinking it's 11 at night. Sorry.
No, that's a good point, Mr. Tuitt. Yeah.
I recall our colleagues over in public health tend to be concerned about very early availability of alcohol.
Yeah.
So that to me looks like it was a condition that was agreed with public health.
It's a point that public health often ask for, Chair. And when they see a sales of alcohol beginning at 8 a.m. or whatever's on the application, they will often say, well, if you're going to have it that early, we want it with substantial food. So it's a 7 o'clock kickoff on the license currently. So if we're going to open at 7 o'clock, and I'm not sure that we do, Mr. Kirby will answer that, then to the extent that we are open at that hour in the morning, it's not just alcohol, it's food, it's substantial food. So it's a pre-11 precaution, if you like.
Yeah. But how would you feel about having a condition like that on the license going, throughout the day until you close? I mean,
that wouldn't be an acceptable amendment to the license as it is, but it with specific regard to post 11 p.m. on a Sunday, if you would like there to be a stipulation regarding the availability and service of hot meals, I'm more than amenable to that for sure.
Okay, well, so that's good to know. Thank you, Stephen, for that.
So I think we should check with the licensing officer whether or not they're happy with that as well.
Yeah. Mr. Stewart, do you want to come in and make a comment about this?
So effectively restaurant use from 11 p.m. on those Sundays where the additional hours would apply. Is that what you?
Yeah.
Yep, I'd be happy with that. If the applicant is willing to offer that, then yeah, I'd be happy with that.
I mean, Stephen, I just want to give you a chance here to come in and say, exactly how you do feel about this, because, I want to get this right. If you feel that this is too much, then please say. I mean, otherwise.
So what?
Mr. Kirby can answer. Sorry, Stephen.
I guess it's sort of a bit of the specifics of what I've just said was. I'm more than happy for there to be a condition to express that there is availability of full meals for the duration of the extended period of license, which is absolutely fine and very much part of what we're planning.
Yeah. What we're trying to avoid here is a standing bar.
There will be
Chair, could I just take you to the previous condition on the license, which is 26?
Yeah.
Which says that substantial food shall be available throughout the premises at all times.
Yeah.
Would that cover your?
Yeah, I think it does actually. Thank you for drawing our attention to that one. I think that does cover that off.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, that was just good to express that, Stephen. Thank you for that. Just to get your views.
And I am happy to reassure everyone that I wouldn't expect there to be any standing drinking at these events whatsoever, because they're going to fall so far below our seated capacity. There's simply no reason for that to be the case. We have full waiter service in the venue. We have an online ordering facility in the venue also. So there's actually very limited reasons for anyone to stand up while they're sat enjoying the NFL bar, going to to use the facilities, as it were.
And just one last question from me before I invite members to come in with any final clarifications, etc. Just in general, that particular pocket of Shoreditch on a Sunday evening, I imagine it's relatively quiet down there on a Sunday night in that particular little bit.
Very, very quiet. Very quiet. Yeah, we operate another premises further down Worship Street as well, the Long Arm Pub, which is on the other side of the boundary, and it's similarly also very quiet. It's a very peaceful corner of the world, as it were.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
the only people I'm expecting to be coming to or from the venue, or even in the vicinity of the venue, are those people that are booked to join us.
Okay. I mean, the booking system's quite reassuring as well for us. Okay, I'd like to just invite members to come in just in this discussion phase. If you've got any further points of clarification or questions that you'd like to ask.
Gilbert, I don't need any clarification.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Rosen. Councillor
Chair,
Susan Runga.
Just to say thank you very much for the very comprehensive replies that we've received and the very comprehensive information that really helps us in respect of coming to a reasonable and well thought out result for all of us. So thank you so much.
Thank you,
That's great. Thank you very much. Okay, so I think we should, I'm happy to move off the discussion now if everyone else is on the call. Members, yes, happy? Just nod. Fantastic. So we'll just move on to step 7 now, which is closing remarks. So let's invite Mr. Stewart to come in with your closing remarks, please.
Thank you, Chair. I've got nothing to add at this stage. I think it's, as Councillor Susan Rungi has said, very comprehensive responses, and the applicant has obviously addressed a lot of the concerns which we would have. So nothing further to add. Thank you, Chair.
That's great. Thank you very much. And Mr. Hughes and Stephen, you can both come in with a few remarks. Mr. Hughes.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not going to bore you with any more comments. And thank you to Councillor Susan Runge for expressing her thanks to us. I don't wish to add anything further, sir. I think you've got the nature of what we're applying for here. I wouldn't bore you with any further words. Mr. Girdler, you're more interesting than me.
Generally not, Gareth, to be fair. Likewise, thanks everyone for their time and for hearing our application. Thank you.
Yeah, brilliant. That's great. Well, thank you, everyone. So we've had closing remarks. Any final clarifications? Anybody? Just giving you the opportunity. Okay, that's great. Well, thank you very much for your attendance. As I say, you can phone up and find out the result of this tomorrow, Stephen, and you'll get a written response within 5 days. Thank you very much indeed. So if you'd like to just get off the call now so we can move on to the next one. Thank you very much indeed, everyone.
Thank you. We just log out now, do we?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Thanks. If I can find out where I log out.
Chair, I'll just stay logged in, but I'll switch my camera off.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I think now we can move on to agenda item 7 in the pack, which is Blondies Bar, 205A Lower Clapton Road, London E5 8EG. So I would like at this stage to invite the licensing officer to outline the report, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The last item we are going to consider for this evening is for a variation under Section 34 of the Licensing Act 2003 for the Blondies, 205A Lower Clapton Road, to include recorded music and to extend the supply of alcohol hours till 1 a.m. from Thursday to Saturday. We have received 1 representation against the premises and 56 in support of this application. We have received additional information from the applicant, and this document has been circulated. I have nothing else to add. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. And if I could invite the applicant to present your case, please. I presume that's you, Verity, is it? Yeah, you're on mute, Verity. You're on mute.
I'll get there one day. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Verity, go far away. You've got 5 minutes to sell the hub of local rock music.
Okay, well, here we go then. All right, so I just want to thank you all for being here today, obviously. Since opening 7 years ago, we've worked tirelessly to become a safe space for our local community, including especially women, LGBT+ community, and all of those who need it. We also like to take this opportunity to highlight the single objection was made by other parties. It is based on opinion and not supported by the evidence. There's been no objection to this application by any of the local authorities, including crime, the police, or any of the crime or disorder experts. Our management and operational policies included a stringent dispersal policy and noise management policy, including specialised women and LGBT+ safe policies. We work very hard to make sure we're upholding the full licensing objective, and the policies of putting this into place is at the forefront of our operations. The prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, prevention of crime and public nuisance, and the protection of children from harm are most important. Blondies is also proud to be appointed as one of the first 5 venues in Hackney to gain accreditation as part of the Hackney Knights accreditation scheme. Through the accreditation process, the local authorities were asked to weigh in on their applying venues to make sure that the operations aligned with their policies, and we are very pleased to be recognised for our achievements and hard work over the 7 years. I was awarded the accreditation certificate by the Mayor of Hackney, the Cabinet Manager for Safety to Community Safety, Philip Green, sorry, I'm a bit nervous, obviously, and also the Chief Inspector, Lucky Soam. I've also attached a petition of 181 names to my supporting documents that support the variation of these applications. We've also have attached a noise impact analysis by the accredited acoustic consultant Richard Vivian. He's one of the leading specialists in assessing, controlling noise from licensed premises with over 30 years experience in the acoustic industry. The document outlines with proof that the noise emulated from the premises does not exceed that of the extremely busy traffic conditions conditions and the surrounding noise on Lower Clapton Road. Richard Vivian carried out a noise management survey and observations in the immediate area of the bar and was familiar with the location and the wider area. The study, which was done overnight, concludes that over 60 buses an hour pass by the premises throughout the night, and that traffic is extremely high throughout the night and into the morning, and that the noise from the venue does not surpass the noise from the surrounding area, which is a busy high street for the traffic and general activity. This, obviously, the study was done while we were open. Portable notes to report. The incremental change of noise levels caused by the nominal operation, so the normal operation of the bar, would be undetectable when masked by the other noise of the area. The noise with the normal commercial operations of the bar does not have a detrimental impact on neighbours resting or sleeping in their homes. The noise levels in dwellings are not affected by the noise from people talking in the front of the premises, which has got to do with obviously the smoking area out the front, which we have discussed with pollution team. The building has successfully contained noise from the normal operations of the bar for over 7 years. In this time, over 100 events have taken place during these TENs, and these have occurred without complaint of public nuisance or noise pollution. As such, the building has been thoroughly tested. In conclusion, it would be noted that historically there's not been requirements for a limiter on the sound system, but this proposal has been volunteered up a limiter to make sure that we're within the constraints of what's been going on. In conclusion, the last 3 points in his report, which I think are really valid, is this small bar with a capacity of 55, amplified music is now proposed to be controlled by a limiter. The operational practices have been formally documented, reflecting industry's best practices, and for management of noise on the licensed premises has been well documented in all of our policies. The normal commercial operation of the bar has not previously affected any negative on the licensing objective of the prevention of public nuisance, and this is documented throughout our lack of complaints in the local community. And 10.5, given the location, style of operation, and the updated controls, and a willingness to take on board further controls if necessary, it's my professional opinion that the premise is unlikely to adversely impact on the licensing objectives, as controlled activity at Blondie's Bar would not result in an increase of average noise level in the area, and therefore is highly unlikely to result in the public nuisance, as demonstrated over the premises license, having traded over 100 plus TENs over the last 7 years till 3 o'clock in the morning with no noise complaints. So we hope that these documents show our dedication to upholding the licensing objectives, and that we're a safe space and welcoming part of the community. As previously mentioned, we've traded for over 7 years without complaint, a public nuisance, and held over 100 plus events. We're a female-run venue and an integral part of Clapton's community. We have raised a huge family of customers that travel from across the city, country, across the world to visit and become part of our community. We're a community-driven music venue and safe space for women, LGBT plus community, and everyone else who needs it, and which we're extremely proud of. We have struggled for over 7 years with the amount of antisocial behaviour that takes place on Lower Clapton Road, and in particular in the front of Ladbrokes, which is directly next door. Blondies is a safe haven for those who live in the area and those who would never have visited otherwise. We've received a representation again from other parties, which states that 12 a.m. is as late as the venue should be open in the area. The Clapton Heart is a licensed venue till 1:30 in the morning, which is within 145 yards away from the venue. The representation also mentions a rising drug problem. I can attest to the fact that we have dealt with these extreme drug issues on the street for the 7 years I've been in the establishment, and over 8 years I've lived in the area. We've been told over and over again that this is an improvement to what it used to be, being that it was such a intense place to be in up until 8-10 years ago, and we've been told that we have been part of making that place a safe space for people to travel to. Blondies have been attributed to a safer space on many occasions, and this has triumphed in the 56 selected of 58 cent positive representations made in the one day by the local community. Our community is of extreme importance to us, and is the safety and well-being of our customers and surrounding neighbours. I would also like to take this opportunity to re-highlight the single objection made by other parties, and is based on opinion, not supported by evidence, as there has been no objection to this application made by any local authorities, including the police, crime disorder experts. I would also like to say that we have run bi-monthly meetings for the local residents, which was promoted on Facebook and on other groups to allude people to please come to us if you're having any public nuisance or any
30 seconds left. Verity,
And we have had none. We have had no attendees to any of those meetings. We have had no proof that we are causing a public nuisance whatsoever. And we want to put that, we believe that we try extremely hard to make sure that everyone inside of our venue and everyone that travels to and from as best as we can is safe, is a part of a community who wants to be in a like-minded space together. We might be a rock and roll venue, but we are not anti-establishment by any means. We come together as a form and as a community, and we just want to be able that those people that come to us can have that space, and that space is important. We put on these events and they have to go up to the Clapton Heart when the events finish, because that's open later than we are. So we can't justify why we work so hard to get people to our venue and then we have to send them to somewhere else. Thank
Brilliant.
you.
Thank you, Verity.
Thank you.
That was nearly 8 minutes.
Sorry.
That was 8 minutes. That's fine. Don't worry.
I was trying.
That's okay. Don't worry. I noticed that we've got, is it?
Jerry Perkins.
I've got a few other people on the call here that I just want to clarify who you are. I'm trying not to say names here, just for kind of personal safety reasons. So yes, the person with their hand up, if you would like to come in and just introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Katie Ryan, or Catherine Ryan. I'm a nurse at Homerton. I was a resident in Clapton. I've since moved to Waltham Forest, but still work at Homerton. And I am here to support Verity and Blondies in their.
Are you okay being referred to as Catherine?
Yep, that's fine.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. And then I think I've got. Just looking through my list, because we have a code, you see, for everyone. The person, the chap whose name begins with J, do you want to come in and just...
Chair, there's meant to be one person speaking also in support. So if that person could either raise their hand or come forward, please. Thank you.
Yeah, well, just listen. I just want to just clarify who everyone on the call is. So, Mr. J, do you want to come in and just introduce yourself? And is it okay to call you by your name? You're on mute. You're on mute.
Sorry, Jerry, are you there?
I'm here, yeah, but...
Sorry, no, Jerry Perkins, who will be speaking on our behalf today. He would be the J that you're referring to, I'd say.
Okay. Jerry, you're on mute at the moment.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Sorry,
are you okay being referred? Are you okay being referred by your name? So,
yes, certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Okay. Cool. Great. Okay. So we know who you are. I think we know who everyone else is. Fantastic. Thank you very much, everyone, for your patience. So now, I think we want to move on to the other persons, and I think I'll just start with Councillor Rathbone. You're on mute, Councillor Rathbone.
Yeah, I know. It's all right. Okay.
So you've got 5 minutes, Councillor Rathbone.
Okay. Thanks very much, Verity, for what you had to say. I read through all of the supporters stuff, and I don't think there's any doubt that this is a great venue. And neither is rock music particularly anti-establishment either. I've certainly always supported Blondies, and any drug problems, I think, needs to be clear, are not related to Blondies, but related to well, the general area, particularly across the pond, and as has been pointed out through Ladbrokes and so on. So I just wanted to make all that clear and to congratulate Blondies on the Night Accreditation Award as well, which I think was very good. I could go on, you know, picking away at everything and so on in different ways, but really I think what I wrote originally is really sort of summed up by: residents want to be fully assured the previous nuisance will not be repeated, and obviously there was a problem. As far as I can see, that problem has been addressed, and I appreciated the bi-monthly meetings run by Liam. I think that they were good. I think the venue has actually addressed all of the issues from previously, and I think residents who I've spoken to are also quite happy. In fact, one of the supporters, who is I name the person as the chair of Beachholm, had got on to me at great length about Blondies. He's a great supporter, or sorry, she is a great supporter, and I think it's the worry that goes back over history, and people can say, well, you know, this is the present, but actually the past plays a great deal, and the fact that many people remember the Palace Pavilion stuff and all that, and it's kind of still there in the background. But I think if Verity can assure people that there won't be any repeats, and I think from what the documents I've seen, and it's been an incredible display, Verity, of acoustics, everything, you've done everything. So, you know, if I'm going to be critical, then I will really be picky. And I don't want to do that. I want to encourage you, because I like to encourage local businesses. But I think you can appreciate it's just that local residents need to be assured. And a couple of things I will say is I don't think Thursday nights, I think because people have to get up in the morning, children have to get up in the morning on a Friday. Maybe Friday and Saturday is a different matter, of course. And also, I just think that continuing maybe those meetings, although I did encourage, and I don't think residents were turning up, I did encourage people to go. And if they don't go, that's their business, isn't it? I mean, I'm coming here representing them, but I can't represent them at every single meeting. But I do think maybe having some kind of a regular meeting so that residents can attend if they so wish would still be, as it were, part of a reassurance. I think that's pretty much all I've got to say. I notice also about the back door, and I have spoken to residents about the back door situation. They're perfectly assured. There were residents who spoke before, so I don't know whether you've spoken to them since, but they've certainly spoken to me and to Hackney Downs councillor, and they're quite okay about that. I am a little bit worried about people coming from wider area, but it's never been a problem in the past, has it? I mean, Blondies used to be known as backpackers, didn't it? I think that's probably moved on from that, from Australia principally, I think at one time, but it's never been a problem either. So I think, you know, in a way, I'm almost a positive objector, but it is just that reassurance that residents are telling me, which I'm representing to you, as their need to be have that assurance that there won't be any further problems. And also, as I've mentioned, which is our worries as councillors, both in Hackney Downs, as Labour councillors in Hackney Downs and Labour councillors in Lea Bridge, to be a little bit worried about other bars coming. If it's just Blondies, we're okay, as it were, but we don't want to see any development of the scene. And it was the same with Dalston, without going into the details. One minute Dalston was a very quiet backward place, as it were. The next minute it was full of clubs and people. It all took place within 6 months to a year. So that phenomenon can happen. So that's a worry. But if you can reassure us about yourselves, then I think that will be okay.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Rathbone. That was dead on the button, pretty much. 5 minutes, pretty much exact. Perfect.
Okay.
And I thank you for your reasonable response, Councillor Rathbone. I think that's very, very good. So I think I'd like to call next C3, the chap beginning with C. So C3.
Yeah.
And no, I think it's the other one.
The other C. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I'm not going to take as long as all the others. I am a local resident and in support of Blondies. I'd just like to say I'm not a young rocker. I'm a 65-year-old man who loves meeting old friends at Blondies. We've already seen how safe it is. There's never any trouble there. It's a lovely local. People frequent the bar, and it's a really good community hub. Another point about the neighbourhood, Blondies do have notices around the bar asking their patrons to respect the neighbours on leaving the premises. You're also asked to respect neighbours on leaving the premises by the Blondies staff. Now, in the years that I've been going, I used to frequent all the bars, and it was only the last 3 or 4 years I've stuck with Blondies, because the other bars didn't seem to have the quality of Blondies regarding fighting, drugs, attitude. I find that Blondies is a lot lighter, more forward-thinking bar than I've ever drunk in London, to be honest with you. But one thing that hasn't been mentioned about Blondies, which I think is a great thing, and not something that a lot of the other bars do, regarding their music. They promote and offer opportunities to local artists, both new and old, singers, musicians, and technicians, to take part in setting up all the gear in an environment that the owners have created. It would seem such a shame that some of the bars I've frequented in the past have been and are allowed this extra late license, and Blondies, if I may say so, being the pick of the bunch, it would be such a shame if they were refused it, because they are at the top. Now, that's my little piece. It's not 5 minutes, but it's just a bloke who lives in the area and met many people in that bar over years, and that's the bit I would like to put forward to the panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, C3. That's fantastic. Great stuff. Okay, so the others, I noted, Verity, that you mentioned that Jerry was going to speak on behalf. Sorry, Jerry, you're happy with that, aren't you? Just to make sure. He was going to speak on behalf of the others, but in a way, I'd like to hear from the others as well. I mean, even if just briefly. So, you know, I'll bring Jerry in first, and then Emily and Katie and Chris will bring you in for like maybe a minute or so each. Yeah, just a very quick kind of synopsis of how you feel. Okay, Jerry, off you go.
Okay, I'll be very quick, which is, I'm Jerry Perkins. I've been a local resident in Thistlethwaite Road for 29 years, so I share Councillor Rathbone's horrific memories of the past. But I'm really very happy to speak in behalf of Blondies, because I've known them now for 6 years, and I found them to be very dedicated, hardworking, caring landlords. And unlike most other venues in the area, I think it's a place where I've always felt really safe and looked after, which is obviously very, very important in terms of attracting the right kind of clientele, which they do. The bar itself, it's got to be said, is gaining a real international reputation, and it's been featured in lots of magazines and websites. And if you look on YouTube, it's got nearly 30 million views globally of some of the intimate gigs they've been streaming there. And it's a little cultural gem of an asset for Clapton, which I, for one, am really, really proud of. As for the drug dealers, I've also been really impressed in how they deal with them, actually, with professionalism and patience that I couldn't deal with. So I think that's really impressive. I genuinely think they're a force for good. I think they're very responsible people. I'm really happy to speak on behalf of them, and I think we should make an effort as part of the community. I think they make an effort as part of the community, and I think as a community we should make an effort to support them as much as we can.
Great, fantastic. I'm just getting positive vibes now. It's all good. So yeah, I'd like to move on to Emily, if you've got a minute or so, just to.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a resident of Hackney as well. And yeah, just I guess to echo everybody else, I've been to Blondies a good few times. And in those times, I've obviously met Verity and all the other people that work there. I've enjoyed the live music there, and various other evenings. And yeah, it's a great venue. It's an amazing asset to Clapton. And I think I've enjoyed most of the sense of community that's there. And I think that's what makes the bar so unique compared to others in the area. And yeah, most importantly, I'm a woman and I feel very safe being there, leaving there. I feel very looked after, and I think, you know, there's a lot to be said about that. So yeah, kind of same as what everybody else has said, very positive.
Thank you very much. And Catherine.
Hello, hi. I haven't really prepared anything, so sorry, this is a bit off the cuff, but I just, yeah, just as with everybody else, I think who has ever visited Blondies, I suspect the one against probably hasn't, because you can't visit Blondies and not understand what a safe space it is, how friendly and professional people are that work there. I've actually hired the entire venue out myself at one point for a party, and it was just managed. I can't even say how well. It was brilliant. I'm a nurse at Homerton. During COVID, I was supported by Blondies. They obviously covered all the COVID risks brilliantly, and I visited there just literally for contact sometimes of people, just to have a drink and a dinner on the way home from a bad shift. So I can't speak highly enough of them. I know they've had to deal with antisocial behaviour on the Lower Clapton Road. I can't say more emphatically that they would never be part of the antisocial behaviour on the Clapton Road. They've been victims of it, if anything, and they try it in every way to ensure that everything's managed professionally, compassionately. Yeah, I just can't speak highly enough of the place. I think it's an absolute asset to Hackney, and they should be given every opportunity.
Thank you very much, Catherine. And I'd like to invite Chris now to come in just for a minute or so. Chris, thank you.
Hey, I'd just like to echo what everyone else has said really about Blondies just being just a huge positive to our area, really. I live 100 yards or so away from the premise. I'm a resident and father of three. And there is, I don't understand what the representation that has been made by Ian Rathbone. I don't understand why he's written what he's written, really. I mean, he's already kind of come back and said that what he's written, maybe he's changed his mind on. But if you just look at the first few lines of what he wrote, he said, "The hours are far too late for what is a residential area on both sides of the pond." I mean, that's just his opinion, I'm guessing. We don't want another Shoreditch or Dalston here. I mean, that's what the licensing committee's for, to stop further bars or nightclubs opening in our area, if that's what you want. 12 midnight is late enough. There is a drug dealing problem returning to the area. We already know that that's got nothing to do with Blondies at all. They're crackheads. They're just constantly in the pond. In fact, as a local resident, I've written to Ian Rathbone before asking him to do something about it, and he palmed me off to the ponds department about that. So I don't actually think he's massively concerned about that. If there are residents...
That's outrageous to say that. You should be
Chris,
that.
Sorry, Councillor Rathbone. Chris, can we try and dampen down the personality stuff, please?
Sure, but if
I know.
It talks about residents that are concerned, but none of these residents seem to have made any representations. So who are they?
Yeah. Okay.
It just seems to me to be one person's opinion, and we've heard about what a great place Blondies is. They just want parity with the pub 100 yards up the road. I don't see what the problem is.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
And I've got again, I've got this name issue. There's a J on my screen. I don't know if we've heard from you or not.
Sorry, just to jump in there, I'm not sure everyone who's on the call was hoping to speak. I know they can be quite nervous just about speaking. So I just say that people, everyone that's spoken, I'm so thankful. But I think a few people might be a bit nervous. That's all.
Thank you, Amanda.
Yeah, I was just going to say that Ms. Cox agreed that only one or two people will speak. The rest are just here to show their support, and but they weren't expecting to speak, and the others would be watching online by YouTube.
Okay, that's good. That's good. But I do think it's a short brief from the others is helpful. This person Jay in the middle, can you turn your screen on for a second so we can see you? I don't want to mention your name. I think it's C40. C40. Would you like to come in for a minute and say what you want to say? You don't have to if you don't want. You're on mute. You're okay. Okay, fantastic. I'm just checking. I think we've done everybody. If I haven't, please let me know. So now we're going to move into the discussion phase. and I want to open it up to members to start with, to see if you've got any questions you would like to ask. Can I just move to Councillor Susan Runge first?
Thank you, Chair. I would think I'd like to ask Verity, and just to tell Verity, I'm as nervous as you are, Verity, so don't worry. On page 45 of the documentation, point 81, there was a condition about smokers. So I just wanted some clarification about smokers, because I think you're saying there will be 12 smokers outside, but I think that exceeds the limit of how many smokers should be outside. So if you could clarify the number of smokers and also what sort of times they would be allowed to be smoking outside, that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. No problem at all. So I can clarify that. We had a discussion with Rockford Charles to discuss how many he thought was appropriate. We had discussed it, and he then said he has no objection. We would change the amount of people smoking in the area from 12 till 8. During those times that the license would be extended, and he was very happy with going forward with the licensing hours that we've applied for, and also as long as we're happy to change that, reduce those to 8, then he'd be happy to remove his rejection. So yeah, remove his objection and have no reason to be concerned by that number. So yes, just to clarify, and obviously with our dispersal policy and with the licensing hours, at 1 o'clock is the last served drink. So we are dispersing as of 1 o'clock. So people who are in the smoking area will be having their last cigarette at 5:10 past, and the whole venue is closed, and the front is dispersed, and everything's done by 1:30.
Thank you, Verity. That's really good to know, because I think that was a point of clarification that we wanted to hear. But also to thank you for the helpful explanation of terminology around noise management. Who knew that a symphony orchestra was louder than a nightclub? I certainly didn't know that.
Where does it say that?
Brilliant. Okay. Councillor Rosen, do you have any points of clarification or questions you would like to ask?
Yes, thank you, Gilbert. And first of all, I'd like to thank to Verity running this successful venue in Hackney, well-known venue, which is great. And then also thanks Sheila asking this question. It was my concern actually about the number of the smokers. And number 9, the page 64, number 9, about when the customer exits the premises. Is it possible to get can we get some clarification on that one? For example, it can be sending the people 5 by 5 or 10 by 10 customers. Or
Councillor Ozen, would you like to read that out, or would you like me to read it out?
Yeah, that's page 64, number 9.
Yeah, do you want me to read it out so we can hear it?
You can, yeah.
Door supervisors and other members of staff verbally request customers as they exit the premises to leave quietly and respect local residential neighbours. Carry on, Councillor Rosen.
Yeah, and then what Blondies can do about it? Just giving the customers sending exit to give the exit to customer 5 by 5 or 10 by 10 customers, or wouldn't it be helpful to not create some noise issue?
Sorry, I'll jump in.
Have you got that, Verity? Does that?
I think I understand the question. I think you're saying how many people are pushed out onto the street.
Yeah,
The thing is, so we have a pretty laid out dispersal policy, which we follow every day, regardless of our closing time. 10 to the hour, the last 20 to the hour, by our licensing hour, we've stopped serving, obviously, and then there's drink up time. We're only a 55 capacity venue, and a lot of them are sitting around tables of 4 or 5 people, and people tend to leave when they finish their drinks, so it tends to just drip out normally, naturally. We've never pushed everyone out onto the venue, out of the door, and said everyone out now. We hope they disperse throughout the night. Obviously, not everyone is also stays into the very late, the very last orders. There's people leaving throughout the evening. So yeah, I would assume, and by obviously knowing how it goes, there's about 4 or 5 people leaving at any one time. But our security guard is really versed in letting them understand that, you know, it's not that everyone stands out on the street. It's once you go, you say goodbye, and then, you know, they're either off home or wherever they tend to go, wherever they're off to afterwards. So,
Thank you. Thank you, Bert.
and they're all obviously told to leave quietly and respectfully of our neighbours. Like Clint mentioned before, there's posters around making sure that's happening, and we go through a lot of our dispersal all the time and making sure we're advising all the rules that we, yeah.
Thanks.
Any further questions, Councillor Ozen?
No.
I just would like to invite Councillor Rathbone, if you've got any points of clarification that you'd like to come in. You're on mute.
It always happens once to you, doesn't it, in the meeting? Yeah, sorry, the person who wanted to make a personal attack on me, and thank you very much, Chair, for halting that, which is a very silly thing to do in such a meeting, not listening that I am actually supporting the venue, and so on, as Verity knows only too well. I am a councillor. Maybe that person doesn't understand or realise that councillors represent other people's viewpoints. I'm not necessarily representing my own. And the comments that I put there are from various residents who've spoken to me. They've either come to my surgery or they've emailed me or phoned up. And often, as we know, residents are very frightened about actually making comments, and particularly going back over the history of it, that people feel that they may be threatened in some way. I've tried to reassure them that's not the case. And that's certainly nothing to do with Blondies whatsoever. That's to do with perception. So that's why I'm coming here with those representations, because that's what you do as a local councillor. And I think that's probably all I've got to say, because we're going to have a summing up, aren't we? And
Yeah.
So some of those residents are local vicar, some shopkeepers, just residents, and others who
The vicar.
to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Let's keep it cool, everybody.
Yep.
Right. I've got a couple of questions, a bit more probing questions. I'm actually astounded as a musician, in a good way, that you've had kind of Machine Head and Mastodon playing in there, right? I mean, I think that's quite bonkers, if you ask me, but good in a good way. I want to ask you about the noise limiter, and bearing in mind that I know a bit about noise limiters and how they work. I'm presuming that when the band are in there playing, that ultimately, you know, if they were playing at full whack, it just couldn't be done. So essentially, they can get the same effect by turning things down, right? I mean, we've got the live drums, which can't really go through the limiter. I mean, the band can't really go through the limiter. That's unless it's basically sort of everything's mic'd up and runs through the limiter, which means you'd need a larger venue and stuff like that, whatever. So the limiter is good for recorded music, but not so good for bands. So I just want you to speak about what it's like in there, honestly, about the sort of volume that you can sort of take, if that makes sense. Because I realize it will be compressed in there. But they won't, you know, the volume knobs will not be up to max. They'll be using pedals and stuff like that to get the distortion and stuff. So, yeah, just speak to that for a minute, Verity.
Okay, so I'll just touch on the extreme bands that you were talking about before. They're quite famous. They do world tours and stuff like that in stadiums. But all of those shows were recorded live, taken back, and everything was mic'd up for those shows. The thing about, like you mentioned, our venue is so small. They can't play as loud as they would play another show. It just would be physically impossible for people to even stand so close. So they obviously have turn right down in order for people to be able to enjoy the show. Just as an A1 of being a musician, obviously you have to play to your crowd. So those big bands understand that. They're all professionals. They all understand the capacity of the show that they're playing at that time, which is a show that they wouldn't have played for the 30 years that they've been as famous as they are. So they relish in those shows, and those stems have to be audible. They have to be able to be mixed later for a live stream. So all of those things come into the factor. And then obviously with the bands that we have outside of those massive shows, it's the same thing. If they play louder than the musicians can hear, and the vocals, which are obviously definitely through the limiter, we do sound checks each night before we play, and they all understand what's going on. They have to be at a certain level for people to be able to hear them and for people to enjoy the show. And if they're too loud, they're just as much to fault as anything else. So all of the sound goes through that we can have through that, and then we make sure everyone understands that the vocals are the most important thing, and that everyone plays at the level that makes it audible, because no one wants to be in a small room where their ears are busted and they can't hear. And they also have to be able to order drinks, sorry to say as well. So the bars are still serving over the counter. So it's not that it's so loud that no one can understand what's going on. Our form of income is drinks. And just to say, every band gets 10% of what we make over the bar, so that we can support the local artistic community. So it's well within their reason to want more drinks to be able to be served within, obviously, within the parameters. So
Brilliant.
yes.
Thank you. Catherine, I can see you waiting. I just want to follow this lead for a minute. So on the noise, it would have been good in the noise report to know. I mean, I know you mentioned you did the report at night, but you didn't mention what was going on in the venue at the time.
Right.
During when you were doing the noise report, if that makes sense. Do you know what was going on in the venue that night? The night that
I'm almost sure we had a band in and a DJ or something to make sure that we were getting the correct limits of what we were projecting as sound. Also, just on that note, we finish our live music at 10 p.m. We always make sure we do that, because even though the live recording is allowed to happen till 11, sorry, live music, we are also really conscious of, if we are creating noise, that we want to make that a minimum impact on the local community.
Is that sorry, Verity, I'm just aware of the time. But thank you for that. Is that in have we got that conditioned anywhere, Suba? Live music up until 10 only. Is that do we have that as a condition, do you know? Because I think, Verity, that would be good to have as a condition. If you were up for that, that would be quite good as a condition on your license. Live music.
Chair, can I just say that live music only until after 11 o'clock at night does it become an issue. It's
regulated entertainment, but what they've chosen to do is, I mean, is do their own thing at 10.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm just trying to explore, Verity, how you feel about that, really, at the weekends in particular. And also the other question: how many of these big events would you have in a year, say?
Big events like that, at the moment, we're not doing those big live shows. I'm not sure what's happening with those. So they're sporadic. Sometimes it's 2 a year, sometimes it's 5. It's never more than 10, so it's not that we don't have, they're very sporadic and very specific. They come about, and especially obviously with COVID and everything, we really haven't had one for over a year or so.
Okay, great. And how do you feel about this live music condition?
I mean, I'm sure that's fine. Obviously, my business partner, my sister, she's just in the next room, so I just have to whip that up with her so we can agree. But it's what we do anyway as common practice, just to be respectful of our neighbours. So. Okay, well, that's really good to know. And the other thing I think we need to do is we need to tidy up the condition around the use of the outdoor space, because in one part of the document it says the rear garden is not used after 9 Sunday to Thursdays, and 9:30 Friday to Saturday. And then there's another part of the document that says no use of outdoor space after 2200 hours. So I just want to kind of tidy that condition up so that we have, an agreement on the time, and you could either take the 10 o'clock one and just get rid of the rear garden not used after 9 and all that. It depends how you feel about that. Yeah, so basically when we first applied for our license back in 2015, there were 2 conflicting times that was just put in by the licensing authority. I'm not sure why they were different. I think it was just a clerical error. So I mean, we can either close at 9 o'clock during the week and 10 on the weekends. Otherwise, the Friday, Saturdays is a half an hour earlier. I guess that's a discussion. Is that what you're asking me? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a feel for how you feel about both of those times. You know, what I mean. Obviously, I imagine 10 is better for you, but then 9:30 would be better for residents, for example. So I'm just trying to get a feel of where you are really on that particular issue.
I mean, I've always felt like having neighbours happy about where we're at with everything is just an easier way to try and push our boundaries. But at the same time, we've kind of like tried to just adhere to the thing that makes everyone the happiest surrounding us. So, yeah.
And how would you feel about? How would you feel?
Go till 10, but I don't really want to answer that way, because if it's better for everyone to be 9:30, it's better for me as well,
Yeah, well, I think we can maybe discuss in our when we come to think about this, we can discuss maybe around 9:30 or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Councillor Rathbone, you had your hand up. Sorry, Catherine, I can still see you.
Yeah. Sorry. I just wanted to say thank you very much, Verity, for being so sensitive about the noise. But I have to say, I was going to say my summing up, but as it were, I haven't actually heard complaints about noise of music. Only worries about noise outside, the usual people making a noise, talking outside, whatever. But certainly not from the music. And I like the chair. I am truly amazed that you had those bands in there. somehow the noise didn't travel any further, or it wasn't a problem. So thanks very much for that.
Yeah, thank you. And Catherine, do you want to come in?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention briefly, I don't know, it's a personal, obviously, opinion, but I'm quite sensitive to noise. I've got ADD and noise is a big problem for me. And I've been to the venue when there has been music on, and it was by no means unmanageable for me. And I wouldn't say I was someone that listened to really heavy, hard music regularly, but I have been in the venue when that's been on and still found it enjoyable and totally manageable from a noise perspective from someone that is quite sensitive to noise. So.
Okay, so there's two other points. I'd just like to invite members to come in if they need to. Otherwise, I've got two more points I'd like to make. Shake your head if you don't need to come in.
I don't need any.
Okay, great. So my next 2 points are around the numbers of people outside, the smoking thing. And when the environmental protection team came around, they mentioned 8. I know we've had this discussion a bit already. So my question then, Verity, is how many people do you actually, what are the maximum number of people you've ever seen out there smoking, kind of thing, Because I know that stretch can be problematic, and a big crowd tends to attract sort of unwanted attention, if that makes sense. So I'm just trying to get a feel for how many people you've seen out there smoking at one time.
Well, I guess that's a difficult question to answer, because there's a lot of people smoking on the street out the front of Ladbrokes on a daily basis that has zero to do with our venue whatsoever.
At night. At
night and all the way through the morning. I used to live above, and I had to move because they caused so much problems till 3, 4, 5 in the morning. Groups and groups of people standing out the front.
Right.
So we can only really attest to what happens in the direct strip in front of us.
Yeah.
Our security, we have 12 on our license, so that's what we adhere to. If for whatever reason there's more people, we try and move them on. We know just as much as anyone when you're moving down the street that be walking through a big crowd of people can be scary, but at the same time, like I said, just a fraction of a meter away, without even any barricade except a doorway in between, there's continuously people smoking right there. So
yeah. How would you feel if we reduced that to 8? It's a direct question.
I mean, we try to adhere to the rules that we've been given, and if that's the rules that we've been given, that's what the environmental team said. I'm happy that if we can keep it at 12, obviously it means that there's a few more people able to be at the front if they need a breath of fresh air or anything like that. To be honest, like Ian has now said, and I think that's understandable, there's not a lot of there isn't a lot of complaints about noise. We haven't had them. So what we're doing at the moment is 12. We've never had a complaint saying there's too many people smoking out the front. Do you know what I mean? So
Yes.
Kind of like tossing a coin up in the air saying, well, what if there's something happened? But there hasn't been over 7 years. So, I mean, it's kind of hard to say. And again, I can only control what happens in my direct thing.
Okay.
To the left, I can't really control that. So,
great. Thank you for that. We can go and deliberate that, but again, it's just I'm trying to get a feel from where you are at with that.
Right.
So the last point from me is going back to Councillor Rathbone's point about the Thursday, about basically going back to what Thursdays, the current Thursdays that they stand and operate, and just going with the Friday and Saturday. Now, the reason why I say that is because it's just one less day. It's on a Thursday, as Councillor Rathbone said. You know, people do get up on the Friday. I mean, people get up on Saturday, Sunday as well, but they go to work on the Friday. So I just wanted to get a feel for how you feel about that, because that would make life a little bit easier for us as members. So I just wanted to get a little feel again for where you are with that one.
Okay, so again, there's just a few points I'd like to quickly make. I know we're running out of time. We have, over the last 7 years, like I said, run 10s. Some of those 10s were Thursday night till 3 o'clock in the morning. And again, there were no noise complaints. We've never run a show that was, you know, at that time that we then had the next day saying these hours weren't suitable for my lifestyle. In saying that also, the Clapton Heart again have later hours than we have. So whenever we have bands that travel from Liverpool, from Manchester, from, you know, well, Europe, Australia, we have bands coming forward to play our tiny venue, which is so cool for us, but then they have to go to the local bar up the street. You know, we try so hard every day. Clapton isn't necessarily an area where people come to unless they're coming to Blondie's, or they might go to the Heart.
Yeah, Verity, sorry, 1 second. Can you just speak to Thursdays specifically?
Yeah, so Thursdays are the nights that we have live music. That's why I'm referring to the music.
Okay, that's
so
good.
they travel for the band on Thursdays specifically. So that's a really culturally enhancing episode that we would like to continue. And so therefore Thursdays is important for us as a cultural venue, because we only do 1 night a week, because we don't want to do 3. We don't want loud music to come out 3 nights a week, or 4 or 5. Thursdays we focus on live music, and that's why we feel like that's a really cultural prevalent day for us. And to have to bring all these bands in, or the bands that are playing that night, and then send them to the local venue 145 yards away, to have different hours to us. It doesn't make sense to us that we shouldn't be able to mimic those, you know?
Okay, so you'd like to, you don't want to sacrifice Thursday, really, ideally?
Ideally, but again, if it comes to a point where we have to lose the whole thing, you know, it just, you know, if there's any...
Yeah, but thank you, Verity. We've got the idea. Thank you for that. So, Jerry, you wanted to come in there.
Well, I just wanted to support Verity on the Thursday thing, really, because the kind of artists that they're able to get there will be playing other venues on a Friday or a Saturday. So it really does make a big difference if they can do it on a Thursday.
Yeah, okay, fair point. Thank you very much for all that. I'm just trying to think if there's any other things that I wanted to ask before we go on to the next stage. Members, are you happy, content to move on at this stage out of the discussion phase? We've been in a discussion phase now for about 20 minutes. Are you happy to move on?
Yep.
Yeah, happy to move on, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, so if we could just move to closing remarks then, maybe just I'll invite Verity to come in as the applicant, just with your closing remarks, Verity. Thank you.
Yeah, so I don't know if you saw someone popped in my left hand. So if it does come to live music needing a cap on it till 10 o'clock, we'd be happy to do that. If that's necessary, obviously the licensing on a Thursday and for live music in general doesn't stop till 11. So, you know, if that's something that we can inflict when need be, if we have a bigger band come in and they can only play at a certain time, that we shame. But anyway, that's just the 2 seconds on that. And yeah, just to say that I hope you can see through the people that have spent like the time from their day to show what a positive impact we are in society, what we are for the neighbourhood, culturally, significantly for women, and all of those positive things. I hope you can take those into consideration, because we do on a daily basis make that really part of our soul and heart of what we're trying to do. And yeah, that's kind of what I want to say about that.
Brilliant, and it's great to hear that you've joined the Hackney Knights accreditation scheme as well. And I would try and, you know, get members of staff and yourself and everybody else involved in the venue to get on those free training courses, because they're really good. You've probably been on them already, but they're available online, and they're exceptionally good.
Yes.
Suba, can you, in the meantime, please look up the license for the Clapton Heart, so we've got that on the table when it comes to our discussion, our private discussion, so we know exactly what the licensing hours there are. And so, closing remarks. If I'd like to invite Jerry to come back then. with closing remarks in support.
Well, my only closing remark is that the team at Blondies, they're very hardworking. They do make an effort to be part of the community. I've attended a couple of the monthly meetings and I've been really impressed. So I think they should definitely be supported.
Thank you very much. And finally, Councillor Rathbone, the others we've heard from you, and Jerry has just spoken for you guys, Emily, Catherine and Chris, if that's okay, and Julie, I think it is. Councillor Rathbone.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to, because earlier on about residents in the area, that it's been established, including in the previous hearing about Blondies, but also in other licensing hearings down the year, that it's recognised that it is a residential area. And I actually see that Verity is recognising that as well. And I can't fault her approach to having a 10 p.m. cut-off and even welcoming 9:30 from your suggestion, Chair. But I would just like to say again that Thursday nights is difficult, but maybe there might be some arrangement that the committee can come to about that. And just to say that there might be a point in having some kind of meeting like the bi-monthly meetings, but maybe once every quarter or something with residents, so that residents can come along and make a comment, and maybe even a letter to local residents, or one that we can, as it were, push out to residents who are concerned, just to explain what's going on whenever the final decision is made. So I think that's it. Just once again, congratulations, Verity, on all that you've done. It's quite, you have really addressed all of the problems.
Thank you, Councillor Rathbone. So I'm just moving on to, I'll bring you in a second, Verity. Yep. So just closing, we've done closing remarks. So for any points of final clarification from members at this stage, Councillor Suzarungi.
No, Chair, not a point of clarification, but just wanted to say thank you. I commend the local corporation on page 107, where you talk about your open communication processes. So I really like to commend you on that, following on from what Councillor Rathbone has said. So thanks, Verity.
Great. And Councillor Ozen, any points of...
No, I don't need any clarification.
That's great. Well, I think we've kind of got to the end of the meeting. Verity, I have to say that I was very impressed with all the stuff in the pack. I've never seen an item about burns before, how to deal with burns. I think that's really quite thorough.
Thank you.
So we are, if the authorities, the local council and the venues all work together, we can have a really thriving nighttime economy in Hackney, and one which is safe for everyone. So really very well done. We will take this away and consider it, and thank you everyone for attending today. And Verity, you can phone up tomorrow for a decision on this, or you can receive it in writing within 5 days. So again, thank you to everyone for participating. I know you've given up your time, but I think it's going to be worth it. Thank you very much.
Cool, thank you. Just with the Clapton hard hours, I just wanted to double check. So we're happy to just be with that if that has to be what it is. But just culturally, obviously, we like we said before. I'm not sure if but anyway, thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate you understanding that it is really something that I put a lot of effort and time into, and something I really care about. So
great. Okay, thank you very much, everyone.
Bye bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.